So I want you to imagine something. Imagine tomorrow night, the head of NASA goes live on international television, proves that he's immortal and he has greater scientific knowledge than anyone else on the planet, and then tells us we need to stop what we're doing, devote billions and billions of dollars to the space program, and send people on a one-way trip to the stars because in the future, crazy alien monsters are going to come and try and kill us all. I mean, that's crazy, but dude's already proven a lot of stuff that was crazy. What if he's right? Hello, my name is Garvin, and I read things and rattle on about them on the internet for your entertainment. So today, we're looking at Book 3 of the Perry Rhodan Lemurian miniseries, entitled Exodus of Generations. We have a lot of revelations in this story, and there's no way around it. If I'm going to have any kind of real discussion about this novel, I'm going to have to throw out a bunch of spoilers. So, fair warning, a lot of the novel will be spoiled if you keep going forward, and please feel free to hit the pause button, or even the stop button, go and read the book first, and then come back and watch the video. I promise I will still be here. For everyone who's willing to have the novel spoiled or has already read it, let's turn to. Exodus of Generations picks up pretty much where Sleeper of the Ages left off. Our protagonists are still sending out smaller ships called crawlers to check the wreckage of the broken Lemurian space ark. As large parts of it didn't crash on the planet, and some of those fragments are big enough that there still might be survivors on board them. And to make it more complicated, those large fragments that might have survivors ended up getting shoved out of orbit and drifted closer to the local system's asteroid belt, so there is a bit of a time crunch here. Leaving besides the fact that the survivors would have limited oxygen and water to start with anyways. One such group of survivors is a group of Lemurian children who have mutations, both physical and the comic book kind, because they all have extra abilities. The leader of this group is Jorgal, who has the ability to mentally communicate and control machines, and he also has an extra appendage he calls his third leg, but he doesn't use it to walk or run. It seems to function more like a tail to me, honestly. So I'm not sure why it's a third leg and not just a tail. His best friends are the super smart and literally big-headed Darheel. His head is so large and heavy that it needs artificial supports. But he is incredibly intelligent. And there's also the young lady, Mimarek. Her ability is she can kind of see the future. I see kind of because her ability seems to be hit or miss. She can foretell the future and say, hey, we need to get off of this wreck, we're gonna die unless we get somewhere else. But she doesn't foresee what happens next. Because, well, Jorgal and his friends are able to escape on a still working escape pod, they and the crew of the crawlers who were looking for survivors like them are teleported away by unknown forces, basically kidnapped. And now nobody knows where they are. They're not the only ones who have been kidnapped, however. Perry Rhodan's friend, the alien Iko Tolat, has also been kidnapped. And it happened just as he was coming into the system, because Perry Rhodan told him to drop everything and come running. And I have to admit, it's a really great friendship where someone can call you up from halfway across the galaxy, give you no explanation, just say, drop everything, get over here, I need you. And they do. That's amazing. The chapters of the kidnapping are told from Tolat's viewpoint, and it was very interesting because they did a good job of making him relatable without making him human. Now keep in mind, I am purposely avoiding looking things up because I want to see what I can learn just from this miniseries. So what I've picked up is the Howlooters do have their own kind of superpowers. He's able to, it seems, to change his density or do something with his cell structure because he just thinks about it and his body becomes harder than steel, which is a nice power to have. They also seem to have 2 brains. One seems to be better at calculating and problem solving. That said, Tolot, despite being a massive 4-armed creature who could snap a pickup truck with his bare hands and shrug off at least medium caliber artillery shells, seems like a pretty chill guy. Then again, if I could just shrug off artillery bombardments, I would be pretty unworried and easygoing too, so maybe that's to be expected. Unfortunately, Perry is not going to be able to come to the rescue of his buddy here, because as the crew of the Palenque are trying to access a Lemurian memory device they found, instead of it plugging into their computers and downloading information, it instead sets up a psychic connection with Perry, knocking him out and beaming all of his information right into his skull. Which is kind of interesting because it suggests that they figured out ways to mimic or reproduce psychic powers with just technology, but that's a side point. This is very inconvenient with everything going on, but this serves as a narrative framing device to let us see the origin of the Lemurian space arcs and how they came to be. So, I guess you could consider it a bit of a trade-off. Perry seems to be experiencing the memories of a Lemurian named Dishon Appin. Dishon is a chronicler, who is someone who has gone through rather extensive training to develop a near-perfect memory for the purpose of witnessing events in Lemurian society and recording them for history as accurately as possible. Dishon is very good at his job, which is why he very quickly gets assigned to Leven Perron, a Lemurian who takes over the new space program and later starts cooperating with this emerging movement called the Star Seekers, a group of Lemurians who believe that a great enemy is coming from beyond the stars and they must send out large generation ships to the depths of the galaxy to spread Lemurians so far and wide that no one could possibly kill them all. Now, this message hits Lemurian society like a brick between the eyes, because they're only a couple generations from a brutal conflict with another species, or possibly a group of species, I'm not entirely sure, called the Konos. There's only a brief description of them in the novel, but some of them sounded kind of like centaurs and others like cyclops, so I'm leaning towards them being a group of species or possibly an organization. Details are sparse, but it seems the Konos were trying to wipe the Lemurians out, but went extinct instead after a long, savage, no-holds-bar war that lasted, who knows. As you can imagine, the Lemurians are kind of deeply traumatized by this. Now, by the time Dishon is alive and narrating, this war is well in the past, and the Lemurians have managed to build a vaguely socialist paradise where everyone gets the basics of what's needed to live, and you earn luxuries by gaining merit through performing services to the community and whatnot. That said, the pain and fear of that conflict still lingers, like a badly healed wound, and the threat of a second such conflict drives people to do whatever they can to ensure the survival of their fellow Lemurians. Another spark in this pool of gasoline is the fact that the leader of the Star Seekers calls himself the Herald, running around wearing a mask, and while he never claims it, many of his followers claim he's an ancient hero returned to save them from their darkest hour. So, I wasn't that surprised when I found out that the Herald was Leven Perron, and what really surprised me is the guy is an immortal. He has a cell activator of his own, and he's capable of building more. Which leads me to doubt my assumption that this is an alien technology. That said, this guy doesn't come from the current Lemurian society. He's got information they don't have, and he knows more than they do. So, this actually raises a lot of questions for me. Now, if you watched the last couple videos, you know that Perrin here is right, because the beast aliens will show up, and they will destroy Lemurian civilization, although not for some time, since the Lemurians would first develop FTL travel and spread across the galaxy. But they will show up. Although, I'm left wondering, how does he know this? That said, even with everything going on here, not all the Lemurians believe him. But when a hostile, non-human ship shows up, blows up several Lemurian ships before being taken out by Perron, well, that kind of seals the deal. His critics get sidelined, his opponents in the government are pushed out of power. It kind of helps that one of them is caught trying to murder him. And the Lemurians basically go all in here. Now, getting back to the modern day plot, since Perry is in a coma reliving someone else's life, the captain of the Palanque decides to take matters into her own hand and goes off looking for where her crew members are and what made them disappear. And she takes with her Dimitri, the young Lemurian from the first space arc in the first novel, and she also brings along a couple Oconians, including the historian Selena Tormas. I haven't talked about her before, but she is a major character in this series, and she's a big drive to find out what's going on with the Lemurians, because she's a historian who's devoted her whole life to that. And the Oconians, as you might remember, are descendants from a colony that managed to escape the whole beast purge that happened. So this is a big deal for them. And it turns out it's a good thing that some Oconians were part of this rescue party. Because what they find is a malfunctioning Oconian defense station. It's thousands of years old, run by an AI that is clearly broken, and it still considers the Haluters the enemy of all life. That makes sense because the Haluters are descendants of the beast aliens that wiped out the Lemurians in the first place. For those of you who don't remember, the Lemurians developed a device that basically flips the mental switch in the Haluters and takes them from kill everything that's not me to I should sit down, rethink my life choices, and maybe appreciate the sanctity of life. Honestly, as horrified as I am with devices that change people's minds without their permission, I'm willing to let this one slide. Now, perhaps this Oconian defense station is malfunctioning, or perhaps the ancient Oconians are just that xenophobic after barely surviving an attempted genocide. But it decides that killing the Haluters isn't enough. It wants to wipe out any member of the crews that aren't human. This is a problem because the Terran ship, the Palanque, has a multi-species crew, and some of the people on the crawlers were not human. And when the Terran human crew members object to their alien buddies getting murdered, the malfunctioning AI kind of shrugs and says, you know what? I'm going to kill everyone and call it a day. I did mention this thing was broken, right? So the Lemurian mutant kids, the Oconians, and the crew of the Palanque are going to have to work together to escape this broken AI who is willing to destroy itself as long as it kills everybody else in the process. This is what they want to replace the workforce with, folks. Great decisions. Getting back to the story, I suppose it's a good thing that Jorgal can mind link to and control machines, but it's going to take everything he has to go against an AI that's thousands of years old, even if it is suicidally insane. He will have help, though. And I'm going to leave just who is helping him unanswered, so you have a reason to read this book. Because I'm still enjoying the series. And it gives me a feeling of, this is what Star Trek would look like if it was written by German pulp science fiction writers who didn't have to worry about television budgets. Of course, I've always said that the real interesting science fiction isn't on the TV or movie screen, it's on the page. I might be acting like a snob here, though. You tell me in the comments below. Now, Exodus of Generations answers a lot of questions from the prior two novels, but it also provokes more questions. Because now we know the story of the space arcs and how they got built and sent out in the first place, but who is this Perron guy? And where did he come from? And how did he even know that the Lemurian Beast War was coming? I'm not too panicked about this because there's still 3 books left in this series, so I'm very sure I'm going to get an answer to this, and I'm very interested in seeing what answers they give me. And I'm just going to make a note, this is actually a good thing where you answer questions in a series, and it's good to have those answers raise more questions. The readers get this feeling of, okay, I now understand this thing, and if you raise a new question, as long as they feel pretty sure you're going to answer that question too, they're going to keep reading. That's how you keep their attention. As opposed to raising questions and then never answering them. Because, you know what? I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole. This was good writing. It answered a lot of questions and then gave me more questions to give me a reason to read the next book. That was good writing. On that note, I think this is a good place to stop this week's video. I hope you found this video informative, or at least entertaining, and if you did, please leave a like, a comment, or consider subscribing, because all of those help me in my eternal struggle against the dread Lord algorithm. Terror be on his name. If you'd like a voice on the subject of future videos or series, consider joining my Everwise patrons for as little as $1 a month. There's a link in the description below. Speaking of patrons, I'd like to give a special thanks to Big Steve, my biggest supporter. Your support means a lot to me, man. Thank you. Next week, we're looking at the 4th novel of the Lemurian mini-series, entitled The First Immortal. I hope you'll join me, but until then, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and of course, keep reading!